Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Rich Clark, Guide to the Right Path. And as today it is Star Wars Day, may the fourth be with you. Now, as you can see, I'm kind of dressed as like probably a bit of a nomad, sort of like rebel in the desert, that type of thing. I wanted to get an Obi Wan coat, but couldn't. So anyway, why would someone who does hypnotherapy, CBT, psychotherapy be interested in Star Wars? Well, there's a few reasons. One of the things, if you understand about Star Wars, through all its grandeur and everything else, is that there's always a guide to the right path. Now, the path, this is the path of Luke Skywalker. Now, Luke Skywalker, as we know here, as we can see above here, here, has a choice of whether all the time in the first three films is whether he wants to be part of the Force or wants to go to the dark side. Now, with all this, this is how we all are in our world. We all have the choice of what we want to do. And if we keep choosing our dark path instead of making the change to be in the light, this is our issues we have. So why Star Wars is important? So from the first set of ideas is the first guide to the right path for Luke is Luke has been looked after by his parents. They've guided him away from the Force and trained him as a normal person. This has been for his own protection. And because of this, their guidance was only going to last so long because his destiny was to be something bigger. Then once he is then met by Obi Wan Kenobi, who then becomes his guide. The guide also works in many ways. So the guide in this is that Obi Wan Kenobi is going to now start the proceedings and training of the young Jedi, Luke Skywalker. Now, one of the things that is important, and people don't talk about this within guidance of spirituality, is this. With Obi Wan Kenobi, he becomes more powerful in one instant in the film. So during the first film, he trains Luke, he does things, he explains, gets him ready for his training with Yoda. And with all this, there's something very important about the guide and how your spirits work to help you. And this is when Darth Vader, who we find out in The Empire Strikes Back is Luke Skywalker's father, Anakin Skywalker, was also trained by Obi Wan Kenobi. Darth Vader says in the first film, "You are old, man. You are not like you used to be," because he was trained by him. But his arrogance, Darth Vader's arrogance, was that he believed he was better than his master. We know now through the prequels he wasn't, and actually Obi-Wan taught him a lesson. Now, this is what about all it ever is that when you go to the wrong side of things, you get taught a lesson. It may be the quick source to riches, to fame, and so forth, but it doesn't actually make you fulfilled. And in the end, as we see with Darth Vader, you think he's carrying on his legacy, he dies. Then also when the next person who tries to carry on his legacy in the next last three films, it doesn't work. Every time, there's always a consequence. And this is what the idea of Star Wars to me as a spiritual practitioner is. So one of the things Obi-Wan Kenobi says, and I may be paraphrasing it incorrectly, is that when he fights Darth Vader, he says, "I'll be more powerful in death than you'll ever know." And that is why to let the others go on the rebel base is Obi-Wan Kenobi sacrifices himself. And then in the other two films of The Empire Strikes Back, and actually in Return of the Jedi, and especially in Star Wars, where Luke Skywalker has to destroy the rebel base, sorry, not the rebel base, has to destroy the Death Star, is that it's actually Obi-Wan Kenobi, his gut feeling teaches him to use his force, to use his intuition, even though he knows Obi-Wan has died. And that's actually where Luke Skywalker, first time he feels like, there is something bigger than myself. And that is where we all need to understand that we do have forces which are bigger than ourselves. We are mere mortals, but the actual force of the spirit world and the actual idea of our intuition and how we use that correctly can be used in our choosing of the good or the bad. So when you ever think of Star Wars, and you may think that you don't like spirituality, could be, look at actually what Star Wars is about. It's not only about the idea of Plato's Republic or any of these other stories which it bases on, which George Lucas clearly said he's used. It's actually more to do with the idea of us understanding our intuition, our guidance from ourselves, and that guidance about doing the right thing and trusting ourselves to make the right choice. And when we then get into The Empire Strikes Back, Yoda trains Luke all the time about how he's got to use it. And he talks about the other thing is trust yourself. Stop using your mind to stop yourselves from doing things. The mind is so powerful. It's 5% of your subconscious controls 95% of your brain. And so it's so important that as from now on, as much as you may think it's weird that I'm not obviously a big Star Wars fan, I don't go to the conventions, none of that stuff, but what that message in that film is very vitally important. That if you have your mind and your intuition and your heart and all aligned, the world is at your possibility of whatever you want to be or whatever you want to do, which is aligned with your destiny. So until then, I shall speak to you soon. And if you are interested in wanting to align with your guides to the right path, or you're interested in sorting out your business, your love life, your relationships, your work life, or your family life, please contact me on www.richclark.net and please book a free discovery call and we can discuss all the things that you need to be doing in that 30 minutes of what you, and I'll give you a plan of action. And then you can either do one of the two things. You can either do a mini session, which is at £55 for 40 minutes. And then from there on, you can then do one of the many programs I offer. So until then, I shall speak to you soon, and may the fourth be with you.